Hello, hello, and welcome back to Business First Creatives Podcast. I have yet another repeat guest. We are talking to Andréa Jones today. And I just want to say, y'all know sometimes I get these ideas for these podcast episodes. I'm on Threads, I'm on Instagram. Someone says something, and I'm like, I have shit to say about that. So I immediately email them and are like, do you want to come on my podcast? And with Andréa, I don't have to beg. We're good friends. So I'm like, come talk about this on my podcast. Here's the link. I don't even really ask you if you want to. It's here. Pick a time. But she is here today, and we are going to be talking about the shift that both of us have made from social media into email marketing as our primary form of communication. And so I am so excited for this conversation, and I hope that you are too. Girl, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me on here. I always love chit-chatting with you and just getting all the real tea that's happening in the business world.
I mean, I think it's really funny that before we started this and I'm asking you about the email stuff, you're like, well, but there's a controversial part. And I'm like, oh, really? What is it? And then you tell me and I'm like, no, that's not controversial. That we do that all day, every day over here. So I'm even more excited about this conversation than I was originally. But Andréa, why don't you tell the listening audience who you are and what you do? Because that is going to lean us into the transition. I feel like most of the time when I have repeat guests, I don't have you repeat that stuff, but I think that it's front and center for your transition. And so let's start with that.
Yeah. So I'm formerly a social media strategist. I now call myself a mindful marketing strategist because a lot of what I teach my clients and customers is about holistic marketing ecosystems. Even though, and I've been teaching it this way for years, but even though that is still the thing, people still, their entry point into my world usually is, man, I'm trying to edit this Instagram reel and I can't get it to work. And it's once we start peeling back the layers, I realize over time, it's not the Instagram reel that's the problem. It's the weight and the pressure that people put on the Instagram reel that's the problem. And once they shift around to focusing on the main thing, which today we're talking about email, then things become easier. And so my new tagline is simpler, smarter marketing for busy people, because my people are we've got kids, we live lives, maybe we have chronic illness, maybe we're taking care of our parents, maybe we're going back to school. We have stuff going on and we don't have time to follow the quote unquote traditional advice of post 3 times a day and live in your stories. That doesn't work for us. So what else is there? And that's kind of where I land.
Yeah. And for me, I know a lot of people don't like to be in their stories because they don't like to be visible. They don't like to make videos. And that's not me. I love making videos. I love recording podcast episodes. I love taking those clips and putting them everywhere that I possibly can. But I am tired of Instagram. I am tired of stories. I have not posted on my feed since the inauguration, which it's a picture of me with some Disney people, pick your emotion. Anger, sadness. I don't remember which one I had. But anyways, that's my last post on Instagram. I posted a story this weekend. I was at a podcast retreat and so many people responded and said, oh my God, you're in a story. I'm like, yeah, I'm not coming back. Don't get excited. I just wanted to share my chocolate martini with everybody. But recently, in the last year, I have had a lot of health problems. I have been mentally weighed down. And so I didn't have the energy to show up on social media as I have in previous years. And so I have really been going all in on marketing, email marketing. And I felt like when I saw your post talking about you doing the same, or maybe it was a podcast episode, I was just like, no, girl, come talk about this with me because I need somebody to chat with.
Yeah, I do think this is a collective experience right now. I swear there's going to be studies on us post-pandemic fallout or something, because there are so many people I'm talking to. We're all going through the same thing. We're the very idea of creating content to post on social media, just even thinking about it, we're ugh, do we have to? And so it's that feeling that I'm trying to bottle up, because a lot of what I've been doing it this way for years, but a lot of people assume that the way that I teach social media is social media first and social media focused. And while I have had a heavy emphasis on it, my approach has always been social media is content repurposing and then connection. I rarely make custom content for social media, very rarely. almost everything I put on social media, I said somewhere else first, usually either my podcast or my email. So for me, I've always taught it this way. So even like my OG ride or die, like they've been in my membership since day one people, when I rebranded from Savvy Social School to the Mindful Marketing Lab, they were like, oh, yeah, that makes total sense because you've been doing it this way for years, right? And so, yeah, I'm totally with you on this feeling around social media. It just, we're not excited about it anymore because we've just all been here for so long.
And I feel like I've even seen, like, in the last month or two, I have seen like this transition on Threads. Because I feel like when Threads first came out, it was where everybody went to post their hot takes. And it wasn't like, I'm selling this, come buy it. But I feel like in the last month or two, the people that I really used to enjoy just reading what they had to say that day, it is, here's one of 5 posts about this new thing that I'm selling. And it's like sales post, sales post, sales post. And I'm like, okay, so people I feel like are, exiting Instagram and they're just bringing those sales vibes over to Threads. And I'm just like, okay, it's kind of ruining it for me, but I'm not posting on either one of them. I'm like consuming, but I am not sharing. I mean, I'm really only sharing on my podcast now. And then that is what gets repurposed everywhere. And I will say it's one of the things that I really love about you, because every time I've had a conversation with you, every time you've been in a podcast recording with me, it's been like there are so many facets to your marketing. Pick the one that you love and go with it. And then when it is appropriate, repurpose it to other places.
Yeah. And the big aha moment for me was, so every year I sit down, I like look at my analytics from the previous years, I compare them. And what I noticed last year when I sat down to do this right before my rebrand was I have more email subscribers on my list. I have about 19,000 people on my email list than any individual social media channel. So here I am like, oh, I'm a social media strategist. When in fact, my largest community, let's call it, is my email list. And it's like, duh, this is what I've been trying to do since I started my business, and it's working clearly. But if you go look at my Instagram, that number isn't reflected there. I think I have like 10,000 people on my Instagram. So it's one of those like aha moments where I was like, oh, like I already knew this, but seeing the numbers, just like the cold hard numbers, I was like, oh yeah, it's not about social media. It's about what social media can do for my email list.
Yes. Well, and I mean, there's a couple of other different facets to that. First of all, everybody should be looking at their numbers. Our good friend Dama put out this, is it traffic tracer? I don't know, but you have to fill out a report every month. And so I've started doing that. I mean, I was looking at my numbers before. You and I are both huge fans of Metricool. I love that I can go in there and like, see my data, see how many followers I've gained and or lost every single month or whatever period of time I want to do it. But looking at your numbers is essential to figure out where people are coming from. Just having come back from my podcast retreat, I have been talking more and more about my podcast being my first and foremost marketing channel, because I am starting to see sales, not just of small templates, but of like entire like one-to-one services where people were like, oh, I heard you talk about that on the podcast. That's what I want. And then they're booking a sales call. And I'm like, okay, it is working now. Like it is supposed to be working. And I'm like you, like, it's not about the number of followers per se or subscribers for my podcast, but when I have hard data of how much money I made off of someone saying, I heard you say this off the podcast and this is why I bought. I mean, that's just data that you can't ignore.
Yeah. Yeah. And same for me. When I was looking at conversion metrics, my email is my highest converting platform. Now, that's not to say like social media doesn't have a role and my podcast doesn't have a role. They all play a role in the marketing ecosystem, which is why I like talking about it, like working together. And a lot of people who talk about email are so anti-social media. And I'm like, we can have it all. It's just not like equally important. So to me, it's like, if you're planning out like Thanksgiving dinner, like to me, email is like the turkey. You got to have the turkey, but like you can't not have side dishes. And that's where I
some mac and cheese.
Right. Social media to me is the mac and cheese. And it's like, how can you can't not have it, in my opinion. But it's not like, if you didn't have the turkey, then you're not even having Thanksgiving dinner. Like you're just having mac and cheese. So yes. That's kind of how I see social media. And especially for business owners, there's a lot of advice out there for people who want to be content creators and influencers, and it's not the same for us. Like, we're not looking at the same metrics. We're not going after the same goals. We're not trying to be viral. We're trying to run our business. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I look at it.
And email is the only place that you are in control of who sees your content. Like, you put it on Instagram and it's what, like 1% now? I mean, the percentage is so low. I don't even care what it is anymore. So many people who have raised their hand and subscribed to you on Instagram, which to me is the same thing as subscribing to an email newsletter. But when I send out an email newsletter, I can tell every single person received it. I can see every single person that opened it. You don't get that same kind of data or metrics on Instagram. And even when you do, you are not in control of everyone seeing your things. As you say, it's the Instagram gods or the algorithm.
Mr. Al, the algorithm.
That controls whether or not people see your content. And I am just super tired of playing that game. Like, it is beyond me at this point.
Well, okay, I may have to disagree with you just a little bit because it's getting more complicated, right? And I don't have the right terms for this yet, but I think there's something to creating like a brand identity rather than a platform focused one. So even in our inboxes, like Google and Gemini, they're really in the AI, right? And so like even in your inbox now, you open an email, it has a summary at the top of like what the email is about. To me, as someone who's like, I love my email list, I'm like, I hope people read my email. I don't want them to read the summary at the top. I spend a lot of time writing this.
Because you don't control the summary. Yeah.
Right. I don't control the summary. It's adding in things that I didn't say, or it's summarizing it in a way that just like boils it down to nothing. You're missing the story. Right. And so that piece of it's like we're losing control on that piece as well. And so this is why I'm a huge fan of the ecosystem. Like, it's not just the email thing, but to me, I hope that the way that I write my emails, people don't even care about the summary at the top because they're like, I need to hear from Andrea. And so that's kind of my whole goal with my email list is I use a lot of storytelling. I try to make it fun and insightful, I guess. And so I hope that even though this little AI summary at the top is there, they still feel a connection to what I have to say enough to like read the whole thing.
I read the whole thing, just so that you know. I read the whole thing. So even if it's just me out of 19,000, we're all good.
Yes. Well, there you go.
But so tell me about this transition for you, because again, it isn't as hard of a transition as I'm making it out to be, but I do feel like it's the first time that you like said it out loud. No, email is my queen now. Like everything else is secondary. So tell me what that looks like for you in terms of when you are making your marketing plans.
Listen, I went through a whole identity crisis. I had a therapist and a business coach work me through this because it's hard. Like, I've been doing this for 11 years. And even before that, when I worked in corporate, I was on the social media teams. Like I was very into it. And even though I knew that this was me, listen, I bought the domain name Mindful Marketing Community in 2020. And I didn't rebrand until 2024. So even then I knew. But it's one of those things that's freeing too, because there's a lot of updates happening on social media just constantly. And it's hard to keep up. And this is my job. And I still keep up with all of them. But I found myself, I was giving the updates that didn't matter, right? Like, oh, Instagram's going to be taking notes away. Or now they're bringing it back. Or they're taking it away. They're bringing it back. Like it kept going back and forth with little updates like that where I was like, I'm not going to bother my people with this anymore. Right? And so for me, it was more about looking at what actually matters, looking at like my consulting calls with people, sitting down with them. I remember sitting down with a doula. She wanted to, expand her reach. And so we started off talking about social media, but turns out she wasn't even emailing her potential client list. Like, people would fill out the contact form and then after talking with her, they weren't taking the next step of booking a call. It's all automated. And I was like, you could literally add just one or two more emails here and potentially, start closing more business. And like, I know we're talking about social media, but this is like the low hanging fruit. And so it's like moments like those where I noticed going into consulting calls and like talking with my people, they can make more money faster by focusing on email first. And then that's a turkey. And then we can talk about the side dishes, right? They make a beautiful meal, but like the focus of this is email marketing. And I think that's such a huge thing. And even taking one of my clients took the same vibe of email marketing into her SMS marketing. She's a local business. It makes so much sense for her to have basically an email list that's just text messages. Mm-hmm. She was like text her people, like a spa kind of scenario. And so for her, it's like, hey, time to book your next appointment. Or, hey, I saw you were on our website. Here's 15% off. Like it's low hanging fruit, right? And so when I start my consulting and I'm like working with people, I just noticed that we were going to email first. And so it just makes more sense for me to kind of start leading with that in the conversations versus leading with social, because people then put an extremely high level of importance on social media. And I'm like, okay, it's kind of important, but like really it's not that important. Like there's other things we need to figure out first.
I mean, I also feel like in the situation where you were mentioning the SMS, I feel like that's like a direct connection. Like you're sending it to them. It's very specific versus on social media, Instagram. I mean, even LinkedIn, you are throwing up all of these ideas and you're kind of hoping that they're going to catch with someone instead of like, this is my crafted message. I'm specifically sending it to my entire email list, or maybe it's segmented, because I also think that's when a lot of people miss the ball is, yes, there's times when you should email your whole list, but how much further could you get if you started sending emails that were more segmented so that you could make your messaging even more specific to that group of people? Like you might talk about your offer differently with segment A than you would with segment B. And so why not craft two versions of the same email and do it both ways, which I think is a perfect segment to start talking about AI. What do you think?
Yes, please. I'm pro AI. I'm a fan.
I am also pro AI. Listening audience, the thing that we were talking about before we hit record was she said that it was going to be controversial because she uses AI to write her emails. And I'm like, no, girl, I got a whole course coming out where I built an AI tool that will help you write your client experience emails faster with AI based on templates that I'm giving you. Like that is the thing now. And it's really funny because I was getting like an email audit kind of thing from a coach a couple weeks ago. And one of the things that she mentioned was that I had AI tells in my emails. And the first thing that when I looked at them, I was like, I don't care. I don't care if everyone knows that I wrote this email with AI. And I mean, it was like the emojis, it was the EM dashes. Okay, but it sounds like me. Yeah. It has my thoughts in there. I don't care if people know that AI wrote it. I think that, pretty soon we're going to get into a space where people are going to assume that everyone is using AI to write everything versus I feel like for the last year and a half, it's been like, oh, if you use AI to write your sales page, like it's not really you or your emails. But I do feel like we are getting a shift now. Do you agree?
100%. I think that it's going to be, so I always tell this story with my opinion of AI. I was in the 3rd grade or 4th grade. And we had to do math. And y'all remember math, 3rd, 4th grade, you got to show your work. You got to do the whole thing. Okay. You cannot use a calculator. And y'all, math and me, we do not get along. Okay. I do not. I need my calculator. And my teacher sat me aside and was like, listen, it's not like you're going to be able to carry a calculator in your pocket for the rest of your life. And now Look at me. I got my calculator in my pocket, Mrs. Anderson. So for me, it feels like that conversation. It feels like people are assuming what the future will be like. And they're like, oh, AI is going to take over. But I think it's going to be more like the calculator on your phone scenario where you're just like, well, duh, of course we all have calculators on our phone and we use them all the time and we carry it around with us. And so right now we're in like this weird in-between space, but I definitely see it in the future. That being said, I do think there's still a premium on human stories and human experiences. So I use AI as my assistant, not my brain. Okay. So for me, when I write my emails, this all started because I have a 1-year-old who would not let me go. She will latch onto me and will not let me go. And you know what? I'm the same way. So girl, I understand. However, it was really hard to get work done with her versus my first kid was like, bye, mom. Okay, you're fine. So I was like, I could work in between stuff because she did not want to play with me. She wants to play with other kids or by herself. my second daughter was like, I don't care who else is in the world. I only want mom. And so I started using voice to text a lot. Mm-hmm. And then I started using voice to text on ChatGPT. And y'all, this changed the way that I write my emails, because it used to take me about 2 hours to like sit down, write, edit, put everything together. Now it takes me like 10 minutes because I created a custom GPT for myself. And I literally will tell it the story. Like, this is the story that I want to tell in the email. This is the point that I want to make. I want to make sure to use these words. And this is how I want it to end. And then Chatty, that's what I call ChatGPT, Chatty will write the story for me. And it's like 90% there. I go in and edit it. And yes, on the M-dashes, like it goes wild with that. I just remove a few of them, use my own emojis, whatever. And like I edit it to sound more like me. And then away we go. And it's like so much faster. And I love it.
No, I mean, I do think that what you said, it's your assistant, not your brain. And it didn't really... I feel like we're still stuck when ChatGPT came on the scene like a year, 2 years ago. I can't even remember how long we've had it now. See? I mean, it's been so long in my brain. But I feel like there's a subset of people who tried it in its first iteration. And they're like, oh my gosh, like that sounds so robotic. That is crap. You know, I went back and forth, and at the end of the day, it would have just been faster if I've written it myself. I feel like there's that subset of people that just can't let go, that the AI has evolved since then. And so they're still stuck in this, oh, everything that it gave me was generic and crap. And yes, if you are not giving it you when you start, it is going to give you something generic. Because if you and I ask it the exact same question, now taking away our memory and like all the other things that you and I would have in our ChatGPT accounts, but if you and I asked it for the exact same thing, it is probably going to give us something that is extremely similar. But what changes it is when each of us gives it our context, gives it our words, gives it our personal storytelling. And when it starts with that, and then it performs the task, that is when what it gives you is very different than what it gives me. And so if everybody can just kind of wrap their brain around, hey, it is not my brain. You need to tell it what it is that your story as a baseline, you know, an outline of the email, or sometimes, like you said, I will just word vomit, whether you're doing the dictation or you're doing the straight talking to it. Because a lot of people don't know you can actually talk to ChatGPT now. Like you talk to it with your voice and it will talk back to you in a voice. Yep. So if we could all just wrap our heads around, you give it a task with your context, your words, all of these things. The rough draft that it gives you is going to be what she said, guys, like 90% of the way there. And you are spending, like, let's say you're spending 7 minutes giving it the context. It spits out the email. You spend another 5, maybe 7 minutes doing the edit. That's way less time than what she said it was taking her 2 hours to write an email before, because it's always easier for us to start with a first draft and fix it. I mean, I like telling people what I don't like. I will do that all day. Yes. But if I'm sitting in front of a blank screen and I have to start writing, I mean, what I write sounds like shit from the beginning, right? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah, no, same thing. And like literally I was hiring a copywriter to do what ChatGPT is doing, because even when I had my copywriter, I would sit down and record a Loom video. And I would say, this is the story that I want to tell in my email. And then I'd send it to my copywriter, and then he would write it very well, mind you. And then he would send it back to me, and then I would edit it and I would publish this. And this was pre-ChatGPT, right? And so like my process was still very similar back then. And then when I sold my agency, I sold my team went with our clients. And so I didn't have my copywriter anymore. And I was like, well, now what? And that's when I'm like sitting down. Yeah, I'm trying to write it. And I'm like, this is taking way too long. I'm not a writer. I shouldn't say I'm not a writer. I'm a talker first, writer second. And so a lot of the writing that I do today, it almost always starts as talking first. Like even in Riverside here, I will record like videos and things and then take the transcript, put that in ChatGPT and be like, can you summarize this for me? Because I got to put this in an email because I need to send it out to people. Right. And so it's like, even that, it's like, it makes it so much faster than having to sit down. Like, I'm like you, if I have to stare at that blinking cursor, ain't nothing coming out.
Nope. And it's funny to hear you talk about your process versus my process, because you're like, this is the story that I want to tell. And that's what it's using as the context. For me, it's usually like, these are some thoughts that I had about, client experience, systems, whatever it is. And then after it writes it, I'll be like, oh, that reminds me. This is a story that I want to infuse it. So I actually do the opposite of you.
Mm.
I get like the first draft, and then I think of what storytelling is appropriate for that email and I stick it in after. And I think I've done it that way just forever. Like, it never really occurs to me. I shouldn't say never, but it's very rare that I start from like, this is a story that I want to tell. Like, even the other day, girl, squirrels have cost me $6,500 in the last 2 weeks. I know, you should see her face, guys. Squirrels. So 2 died in my townhouse attic. And apparently they've been up there, like squirrels have been having a party. They have been chewing on wires, chewing on wood, chewing on insulation, disgusting stuff everywhere. I mean, the first visit is today when they're coming to like cleanse everything. But $6,500. And I wrote an email the other day that was like, hey, I am migrating from Kit to Encharge. And I know that you guys love me. And when you switch email marketing providers, they automatically think you're a scammer. So you have to prove that you're not. I'm like, can you guys please click in this email? And so I got a first draft and I was like, okay, but it needs a story, like something funny. So I was like, ooh, I have 2 stories in mind. So one was the squirrels cost me $6,500. So, I gotta make sure that my email is working so that I can pay for the $6,500 bill. The second thing was that morning, James put have you ever seen the pattern bottles, shampoo and conditioner from Tracy Ross? Okay.
Yeah.
They're identical. There's nothing different. The color, nothing. He put them together next to each other where I keep them opposite. And so I couldn't tell which one was which. So I told ChatGPT both of those stories and I was like, stick this in the email. And it did a great job. Like, I came back and I was like, no, this one should come first. They should come second. Like, I did my thing. But I started with, hey, I need them to click, write this email. And now let me put some storytelling into it.
Yes.
So even though you and I are going about it in an opposite order, the end result is the same. An email to our list that sounds exactly like us and says what we want it to say in way less time.
Yeah. And the thing that I love about AI is it helps me focus and be organized. I am realizing that I may be on the ADHD spectrum because
same.
I do a lot of things and my brain is like, ooh, and how about this? And so when I'm writing, yes, very much like a squirrel. And so when I'm writing, a lot of times now I'm like, okay, ChatGPT, tell me how many emails I have with these stories, because I'll just start talking and it's like 10 minutes later and I'm still talking. And I'm like, this is entirely too long for one email. And so lately I've been like, okay, how many emails are these stories and how can I relate them to marketing? Because I created my custom GPT, knows everything about me. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, how does this relate to my offers, my marketing? And so then it will then go, oh, here are 3 stories here. You could actually do this way. And then we can relate it back to this, that, and the other thing. And usually I'm like, yes to that, no to that, yes to this. And then away we go. Right. And then I can batch my emails. And so that's what I really like too, is like the organization piece, because I get a little rambly, and then it can like tighten things up a little bit and make it more succinct for the email marketing. And the most important thing is like, it still keeps my story and my perspective. And that's really important to me, especially when you just go into, if you just go to blank ChatGPT and you ask it for marketing stuff, it's not my perspective. Like, I have a very unique perspective on this that's not about, post a TikTok 6 to 8 times a day or whatever it is the TikTok experts are saying now. Like, I can't even say it because as I say it, I'm like, I literally feel like I'm getting the chills. Like, I'm sweating. Like, it's too much. Like, who is doing this? And so I have to be very careful about any advice because Chatty will give me the wrong advice. Yes. So for me, I have to be very careful about that. But the storytelling, the writing, it can help shape all of that for me. And that it's such a beautiful thing. I can get through so much faster because of that tool.
So you talked about organization. I want to add one more layer because I do feel like it keeps getting left out of the conversation. Yes, AI is great for helping you write your content. Yes, the content is better if you start with like something that's a long form piece of content from you or a personal story that you're starting with. Both of those give you a really good direction for your content. It's going to sound like you because it technically is you. But the part that I think we're migrating towards, and I don't think people are moving as fast along as I am, but like analysis and synthesis. So that's where you were going with the, hey, I've got these different stories. How many different emails have they been in? Or how many emails can I create? I do think that using ChatGPT or the AI tool of your choice, because let's be honest, there's lots of them, but like I'm in love with ChatGPT. Girl, I recently said that it's my favorite team member, even more than Airtable. And I felt like that was blasphemy. I felt like I needed a drink after I said it, but it is totally true. I talk to ChatGPT every day, even
Same.
more than I go into my Airtable hubs, which I never thought that was going to be a thing. But like feeding it more information to help it synthesize and help give you strategy, it's game changer. Not because I want to treat it like it's my therapist, which I know there's a lot of people that are using it for therapy or to replace your coach. No, but like Dama is my current coach for the quarter, by the way. I don't get responses from her at 3 a.m. when I have an idea. But guess what? My custom GPT that I fed all of my offers and my ideas and what I think about things, it will give me an answer at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
So content creation, organization, but also moving it along to help you analyze the things that already exist in your world when you are trying to like see the big picture and you can't quite get there on your own. Like that is what I am currently using AI for a lot. And hey, strategy and emails is high up on that list.
Yes, absolutely. And I've written so much too that, I've been in business for 11 years. I've been really focused on email marketing for about 8 of those 11 years, right? And so I have so much content that's available, so much context that I can feed it,
Mm-hmm.
and data too, right? Like I can take a screenshot of, my ConvertKit and say, okay, so here's my numbers. Here are my subject lines. Here's my open rates. What similarities do you see in these subject lines and open rates so that I can improve my subject lines in the future? This sort of analysis would have taken me hours to do manually, and it's minutes in Chatty. And so for me, seconds, moments. I think it's so cool. I did this recently with my Instagram as well. Took a screenshot of my Instagram data, my account, and I was like, okay, pretend you're me. I'm too close to this. What are the commonalities in my top posts? And they're all personal storytelling stuff, like the stuff I already know, but I forget because I'm too close to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you'll notice if you go to my Instagram right now, it's more storytelling, personalized stuff. It's still repurposed though. What I've been doing lately is if I say something in an email, especially the moments where like people respond back, I'm like,
Yes.
oh, people liked this one. So I recently wrote an email about our fantasy marketing calendar versus like real life calendar. Because sometimes we go, oh, I'm going to do an email, a podcast, a YouTube video. I'm going to post to Instagram 4 times. And then we just get the one email done. And then we're like beating ourselves up over it. Like, it's just that it's not matching. And people were like, oh. And so I recorded a video saying the exact same thing I said in the email in video form. And it worked really well. And so for me, it's like email first to test the idea, but then I use all this information that I've been able to synthesize through Chatty to then repurpose it in a way that's more resonant on the other platforms as well.
Yes. And I think you and I have had a conversation previously about repurposing and how one of the pitfalls that people do is they take a piece of content from like Instagram and they just try to slap it on LinkedIn. And it's like, no, the people on those platforms are completely different. They are consuming content completely differently. But your AI tool is going to help you keep the messaging and keep the content idea, but actually reshape it for that secondary, third marketing channel. Like making sure that you're saying what you want to say, but you're saying it appropriately for where you are posting it.
Yeah. And this is why I think having like a weighted approach is key. So like I have my primary platforms, which for me are my podcast and my email.
Same.
So not even social media. Okay. Podcast and email come first. And then my secondary platforms, Instagram and YouTube, and then LinkedIn, Threads, all the others, they're like tertiary? Is that the third?
It is.
They're not. So for me, I think of this as like star, co-star, ensemble cast. Okay. So like my ensemble cast, y'all are going to get the straight up repeat reposted. Okay. Like I don't even have time for you. Like you should be happy that I'm even posting over here right now. Okay. So that's how I use my content repurposing. But my secondary platforms do have a space. So when I have time, space, and energy to create content there, it's semi homemade, semi custom. It's like the Rachel Ray. Like we're gonna make, Rachel Ray.
I do.
I'm using these analogies. I don't know if people know.
I know Rachel Ray. I don't know about
Rachel
other people, but you and I are in the same age category. Yes. So
she had all the tricks for like making a homemade meal that was like not all the way homemade.
Semi homemade.
That's how I think of my Instagram. So it's not, if you look at it, you may think it's custom content. It's not. It's all repurposed from somewhere else. Okay. But some of it is like the video that I just talked about. I wrote an email. I said it on a video. And so that's how I look at it. It's like my custom channels, email, podcast. Those are my original thoughts. Everywhere else is repurposed. My ensemble cast, just be lucky if I just like straight up repurpose. So if you look at my LinkedIn right now, it isn't entirely optimized for LinkedIn. That's because it's my ensemble cast. It's my tertiary platforms. And so, yeah, some of them I do just straight up repost, but then some of them semi-homemade, semi-custom.
Yes. I'm thinking to myself, I knew that I needed to do a shift if I'm sitting in my car or whatever, I had a content idea. So, I start plugging it into Airtable. But I noticed more and more that when I had an idea, I was like, ooh, I need to go home and record a podcast episode. Or, ooh, I want to write an email. And then I would start writing the email. And I was like, this would be so much easier if I just talked about it on the podcast first and then fed it the transcript. And then my email would be written. So it was really like a difference in how I was thinking of creating the content first. And I know that a lot of people do the opposite, and that's okay. They're not us. Like they might get an idea and be like, ooh, that would make a really good carousel post.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, let me take that carousel and write an email from it and send it out to my email news. Hey guys, there is millions of ways to do everything. And we're not telling you that you have to be podcast email first like we are. We just happen to be twinsies, and I love that. But if you are different, that is okay. I just think that all of us should recognize what our primary marketing channel is, create content for that primary channel that makes you happy, and then figure out who your ensemble cast is and give them the little leftovers. I'm going to use that again. That's going to be on Instagram if I ever go back to Instagram and post again.
Use it. And if you want to do the Thanksgiving analogy, this is the leftover. This is the Thanksgiving Day soup that you make the next day.
And guess what? That soup is delicious.
It's still good. Because
sometimes I make the turkey just to be able to make the soup. We're actually a ham family. I know that sounds really weird, but just to put our business out in the street, James hates turkey. So if I make a turkey, it is with the sole idea that I am going to make soup the next day. And that is what I love. Yeah. But my husband wants ham every day, all day. I make a turkey and he just kind of looks at me like, I don't even know why you made that. Like, are you going to eat that 20-pound turkey? Because I'm not.
Yeah, we eat it out of obligation because of our ancestors, basically, at this point. But yeah, it's like, so I think that the big thing here that I think why this works for me is it really leans into my own preferences. I think this is something that a lot of marketers don't acknowledge because they're in their own lane, right? So if you go get advice from like a LinkedIn marketer, they're going to give you something different than a TikTok marketer. They're going to get something different from an email marketer. And so it's like a lot of what I talk about now is like, okay, we're feeling a lot of feelings about marketing. We're feeling shame that we're not everywhere. We're feeling self-conscious because we're not we put ourselves out there. We feel exposed. And so we have to acknowledge like the human behind the marketing first. And this is where I start my work with my clients. It's like, okay, just forget everything everyone else told you. Focus on you. How do you want to feel? How do you want to show up? What's your natural state? And so I was doing this with a client recently. She came to me because she said she wanted a TikTok strategy. And I felt like we were in therapy because she does not like recording videos. And like, to her credit, her content would absolutely be dynamite on TikTok. Okay. That's why she came to me, because somebody else told her she would crush it at TikTok, and she would. But when I tell you she records a video and like her shoulders are up to her ears, she's like dead eye staring into the camera. Like she's taking hours to record this video. And after working with her, I was like, listen, we need to forget about this because she has a whole Substack and it's like bumping and popping and she's very long form. And I was like, you're a writer. Like TikTok isn't going to work for you as much as we think in a hypothetical. There's that fantasy calendar again in a fantasy world. Yes. But like, it's not translating. So let's find something else. And we landed on Threads for her as her secondary platform. So long form content on Substack. She's still repurposing because Substack has its own social element too. You can create posts, taking those posts, putting them on Threads. Done. And she's happy. We'll forget about the fantasy idea of TikTok and we'll move on.
Yes. Okay, girl, I want you to tell me about big inbox energy before we end. Because you and I know that we have to at some point pick a cutoff because you and I could just sit here and talk for hours. And so for the, listening audience, we love you. We are not going to make you sit here and listen to us talk for another hour. But tell me about this training because I know that I saw it in my inbox, the little information, and I was like, oh, I probably need to watch that.
Yeah, big inbox energy. So this is exactly what we talked about today. It is a 3-part structure to writing and sending emails that don't feel salesy, but you're still selling at the end of the day. Using what I taught here today, the storytelling, the drawing people in, subject lines. We talk about preview text. We talk about my before you go strategy, which is really where I make all my money. And of course, I built a custom ChatGPT.
Of course you did.
That goes with the training. So like go through the whole thing. But even if you're like, I'm going to skip straight to the custom GPT, go for it. I call it the fast pass. Okay. Like all of my products now have fast passes with custom GPTs where you can do the training. But if you just want to get to the meat and potatoes of it all, you talk to Chatty and it'll spit out an email with the 3-part structure. And so that is in big inbox energy. You can find it at onlinedrea.com/BIE.
Okay. I wish y'all could see my face. So I was looking at her a little crazy, and here's why I looked at you crazy, girl. You talked about my Disney obsession. Do you know that FastPass comes from Disney?
See, I didn't even know that. And I've been saying it in my stuff for like 6 months now.
Oh, okay. It's okay. So the funny thing is, they're technically not called fast passes anymore. They are called lightning lanes. And I hate it because everyone will like default to saying fast pass. But basically it's like skipping the line. Yeah. It's like getting it done faster. And so I'm sorry. I just thought it was really funny that you call it a fast pass. And we had this whole conversation before we hit record on Disney. And I was like, I bet you she don't know that's a Disney term.
Okay. You know what? In my fantasy world, we're a Disney family. So maybe this is just the writing on the wall.
Oh my gosh. If you guys ever go to Disney, I'm going to need you to invite me to go along, which I will tell you that story after we stop hitting record because I have invited myself on multiple vacations. When people tell me that they're going to Disney, I'm like, don't you need a guide? Don't you just want me to come with you? I mean, and those trips were fabulous. One time, one of the people said that I saved her marriage because she was going to divorce her husband after the trip. And I was not really, you know what I mean? Like it was tension on the Disney trip and I just made it so much easier. But no, I mean, I love being at Disney, which your kids are almost the perfect age to go for the first time. I'm just saying.
You heard it here first. All right, girl.
Thank you so much for joining me yet again. I mean, every time I have a reason to bring you on, you know that I will do that.
Yay. Thank you for having me.
All right, everyone. I hope that at the end of this episode that you have gotten a little bit more inspired to take a look at your email marketing, whether it is an email marketing first approach or whether or not it ends up being your repurposing, but also hear what we say about AI being okay to write those emails and give you the fast pass of getting there quicker. All right, that's it for this episode. See you next time.